All right, Algebra 1, we are talking about two things today. Linear equations with word problems, and we're going to talk about horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, so with these word problems, remember our standard form looks like this, where it's going to be ax plus by equals c. Okay, so just about every single one of these is set up in that way. And you just got to read carefully about what your total is. So the C value here is going to be the total. And then the two things that make up the problem are going to be the A and the B. Okay? And so what we want to do first is figure out what are we looking for. So step 1 is define the variables. Step 2, set up the equation. And then step 3, solve using the extra piece of information that we have. Okay? So, in this case, it says Sam ordered 2 hamburgers and 3 hot dogs from the concession stand at the baseball game. So right away, I have 2 different things. Hot dogs and hamburgers. His bill was $19.05, so I have a total right there. Okay, so right away, I'm good to go. So I'm going to make hamburgers H, and I'm going to make hot dogs D for dogs. Okay, so I've got 2H plus 3 hot dogs, so 3D equals our total of 1905. Okay, and there's our equation. So I've got my variables. I've got the equation set up, and now I can go ahead and solve using the other piece of information, which is if hamburgers cost $5.25 each, right, and solve the equation to find the cost of a hot dog. So I'm plugging in $5.25 for H. So instead of 2 times H, it's going to be 2 times $5.25. And now I go ahead and solve. Okay, so I want to get the variable by itself, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply 2 times $5.25, which is going to be $10.50 plus 3D equals $19.05. And so when I subtract $10.50 to both sides, I'm going to end up with 3D equals, and I'm using a calculator, so don't think I'm trying to do this in my head. Use a calculator. So 855, and so when I divide by 3, I'm going to get my final answer that each hot dog costs, 855 divided by 3, is $2.85. And so there's my answer, $2.85. So we need to make sure we're labeling our final answer. Preferably, I would like you to have the final answer in a sentence, but labeling would be a good start. Okay, if I want a full sentence on the test, I will definitely let you know on the test. Okay, so number 3, let's skip over to number 3. This one's a little different because it doesn't straight up tell us what the numbers are, but we gotta know what the numbers are based on what money is. So Karen's piggy bank has dimes and quarters, so there's our 2 variables. Okay, so I'm going to go, I'm just going to call them X and Y. Okay, so the total value of the money in her piggy bank is $11.40. If Karen has 36 quarters total, write and solve how many would we have for dimes. So in this case, I've got my total, so I know this is going to be something equals $11.40. And so the biggest mistake people make is just writing X plus Y. Okay, that's not the case. we know how much, if this is a money situation where this total is money, then I need these two to be money as well. So you got to think, okay, dimes cost how much? 10 cents. But I can't write 10x because this is a decimal. Okay, 10 cents is 0.10x plus 0.25y. 10 cents and 25 cents each. Okay, and so there's my setup. I got my variables up here. I've got my equation set up. Now I can go ahead and plug in how many quarters I have, which is 36. So I have 0.10x plus 0.25 times 36 equals 1140. And so now we go ahead and work it out. So 0.10x plus, and I have 0.25 times 36. Again, I'm using my calculator to get 9 equals 1140. So now we go ahead and solve. So subtract 9, and I get 0.10x equals 1140 minus 9 is going to be 240. Divide by 0.10, and I get x equals 2.40 divided by 0.10, and we get 24. Now, 24 what? Look at what we're trying to find. To find the number of dimes. Okay? So 24 dimes. Label your answer. Okay? So, let's go ahead, go to the back side here. So, number 5, it says Kate bought $23.40 worth of 2 types of birdseed. So, right away, I think they gave us the total. So if you want, you can write your total right away, $23.40. Now, what 2 types of birdseed do we have? Thistle birdseed sells for $1.60 per pound, so there's one of them, thistle birdseed. And then wild birdseed. Wild birdseed, we'll call that Y, is 95 cents per pound. Okay, so there's our equation. Thistle birdseed for X is 160. So, like I said before, these two should be money because the total is money. Okay, so 1.60 and 0.95 Y. And so it says if she bought 12 pounds of wild birdseed, so that's 12, going to plug in for the Y value. Okay, 12 for the birdseed, right, and solve and find the amount of thistle birdseed. So that's in pounds. Okay, we have 12 pounds. We're looking for how many pounds of thistle birdseed. So let's plug it in. 1.60 x plus 0.95 times how many pounds? 12. 12 pounds equals 23.40. And so I've got 160x plus, using my calculator, 0.95 times 12 is 1140 equals 23.40. And so I'm going to go ahead and get the x by itself by subtracting away that 1140, and I end up with 1.60x equals, and then 1140 subtracted 2340 minus 1140, and we get 12. So divide by 1.60, and we get x equals how many pounds? 12 divided by 1.60, 7.5. So 7.5 pounds, so LBS of thistle birdseed. And there we are. 7.5 pounds for our final answer there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a couple more and then give you some to work on your own. Actually, we'll just do one more. you're buying hamburgers, party. Let's do a little fall theme. Let's do the fall theme here. Number 7. Roadside vegetable stand sells pumpkins for $5 each and tomatoes for $3 each. So right away, I've got my two variables. So I'm going to put pumpkins as X, tomatoes as Y. Okay? So if I've got $5 for each pumpkin, that's going to be 5X plus $3 for each of those, so 3Y equals the total sales on a certain day was 98. So there's our total, $98. Okay, so our setup for the variables and the equation are all set. They sold 10 pumpkins, so we got to find out how many tomatoes they sold if that was the total. So 10 is plugging in for X this time. So 5 times 10 plus 3 times Y equals 98. And let's finish it. 50. 5 times 10 is 50 plus 3Y equals 98. Subtract off 50. And I end up with 3Y equals 48. And when I divide by 3, I end up with Y equals 48 divided by 3 is 16. 16 what? Number of tomatoes. So 16 tomatoes. There we are. Okay? So for your homework, part of your homework is for you to do the evens on this paper. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. So 4 problems. Okay? Now, before we're done, we're going to talk briefly about vertical and horizontal lines. Okay? And this shouldn't take us too long. Vertical lines are written with X equals whatever the number is. Horizontal lines are written with Y equals whatever the number is. Okay? So what you want to think about is what axis does it cross? Okay? What axis does the line cross? Okay? If it crosses the x-axis, that means it's x equals whatever. If it crosses the y-axis, that means it's y equals whatever the number is. Okay? So in this case, it crosses the x-axis at x equals 3. So that's our equation. That's it. Very simple. It crosses the y-axis here at -1. So y equals -1. Okay? That's simple. So you got to think about that when you're trying to find your different equations. So this crosses the x-axis at -2. So x equals -2. Done. This crosses the y-axis. Y equals 3. Done. This crosses the y-axis as well. Y equals -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5. Okay? And so on. We can keep going. So this crosses the x-axis at x equals +4. This one's kind of weird. It's crossing at 0, but notice how it's crossing at the x-axis. It's alongside the y-axis. Okay, so there's a difference there. It's crossing the x-axis at 0, which should make sense because look at all your x values. They're all going vertical. Okay? And then so the last one is crossing the y-axis at +2. Okay? So now, if you're going backwards, you're doing the exact same thing. You're going to that point on the axis and crossing through it, not going alongside. So y equals 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here on the y-axis, and I'm crossing through it. Okay? Number 8, x equals -1. So go to -1 on the x-axis and cross through it. Okay? Oops. Well, good enough. Okay? So couple more examples. X equals 3, 1, 2, 3, and then cross through it. Okay? So the common mistake is for us to go, okay, it's x equals 3, and then I'm going this way. Well, then they would all just be the axis. Okay? So you got to cross through that specific axis. Okay? And then the last one, -2, is y. Cross through that y value. Okay, and so at the bottom, we want to talk about the slopes. A couple words you can remember is Hoy and Vux. Okay, horizontal or y equals. Hoy and Vux means the y equals a is going to tell you the slope is 0. The O in Hoy means 0. The H means horizontal. Okay? X equals A means it's undefined. Okay? So, again, you can just remember Mr. Slope Guy. If you have Mr. Slope Guy, we've got undefined for the nose, 0 for the mouth. So, horizontal and vertical. So if it's an x, y equals, that's horizontal, so that would be 0. X equals is undefined. X equals is undefined. Okay? Which axis is y equals -1? So y equals means it's going this way, and it's parallel to the x-axis. And then x equals 4 means it's going up and down, so it's parallel to the y-axis. Okay? So, what I want you to do on that is just get a little practice with that on 11 and 12. So there's a total of 6 problems that you want to do before we come back to class on Monday or Tuesday. All right? Peace.